Viewers from Keswick Village, this is the Rorschach Arctic Update from the 22nd of April 2025. A quick summary of what's going down north of the Arctic Circle. The biggest threat to peace and stability in the Arctic remains the possibility of military action. With the US continuing to assert its firm intention to take control of Greenland, Denmark has proposed an immediate military response. On Thursday, the 17th, Alex Ardenson, a member of the Parliament and Government Defense spokesperson, published a proposal to send 100 troops equipped with missiles to Greenland in order to destroy any enemy ships approaching the country. He also proposed introducing conscription of military-age adults in Greenland. Jens Frederik Nielsen, the Greenlandic Prime Minister, responded, saying that Greenland already has a form of civilian military training in place, and that he doesn't believe there is a need for a larger military presence in his country. Greenland doesn't operate a standing military force and isn't the only Arctic nation to do so. Iceland has never operated a military, and even in the face of increasing geopolitical tension in the region, the public still doesn't want an army. According to the results of an opinion poll conducted by Gallup released on Wednesday the 16th, over 70% of respondents are against the creation of an Icelandic army, and only 14% were in favor. Iceland remains a nation that seeks peace in the north above all else. Despite the growing international tension, Russia's Arctic ambitions continue to grow. On Monday, the 14th, the Russian government released an energy strategy report predicting that while oil exports will stagnate by 2050, natural gas exports could nearly triple, reaching over 400 billion cubic meters annually. Much of this gas would come from Arctic reserves, making Russia the world's largest natural gas exporter. However, this projection depends on Russia's ability to navigate and overcome ongoing international sanctions targeting its Arctic energy sector. If successful, Russia's Arctic region could become a global energy hub, transforming the country's economy and increasing its geopolitical influence in the far north. Meanwhile, Finland shows no signs of repairing its own broken relationship with Russia. On Wednesday, the 16th, the Finnish Interior Ministry published a press release announcing that Finland will keep all the checkpoints on its eastern land border, stretching from northern Lapland down to its south coast, with Russia closed until further notice. Finland first closed its border with Russia in late 2023, and with Finland still perceiving their neighbor as a threat to security, the 900-mile, over 1,300-kilometer border remains shut. Finland is keeping a good relationship with the U.S., though especially when it comes to icebreakers. The U.S. is desperate to build new ice-breaking ships, and on Friday, the 18th, the news agency Arctic Today published a story revealing that the Finnish shipyard, RMC, is in negotiations to build up to 8 icebreakers for the U.S. Coast Guard. The initial plan is for the shipyard to build 3 to 5 medium-sized icebreakers at a cost of almost $3 billion, with another negotiation underway for the construction of 3 large icebreakers at an unconfirmed cost estimated to be over $1 billion per ship. The U.S. has tried for over a decade to build its own icebreakers, but is turning to Finland for a job that could be extremely valuable to the entire Finnish economy. Another area expanding in the American Arctic is the oil and gas industry. On Friday, the 18th, the U.S. Interior Department took first steps to create a new wave of offshore oil and gas drilling in the Alaskan Arctic. The department said it would begin taking public input for a new offshore oil and gas leasing program over the next 45 days. Then it will begin developing a 5-year plan to create a series of drilling platforms on the outer continental shelf of the high Arctic. While funding for oil and gas flows freely, Indigenous communities are facing cuts. On Wednesday, the 16th, the Washington Post reported that President Trump's administration has slashed $1.5 million from grants supporting research into historic Indigenous boarding schools. The funding was intended to digitize records, collect survivor testimonies, and help locate the graves of children who died at the schools, usually from healthcare neglect, with many of them being from Alaska Native communities. The grants were part of the independent federal agency National Endowment for the Humanities. Trump has now cut funding to over 1,400 of its projects, saying these programs do not meet his political agenda. Economic struggles are coming to one of Sweden's biggest industries, forestry. According to a report published on Wednesday the 16th by Swedish Forest Industries Federation, last year was the worst year for the industry since the 1990s, and 2025 has continued the declining trend in demand of Swedish wood. The forestry industry is vital to Swedish economy, contributing to about 10% of the nation's GDP. Northern Sweden is almost 80% forested, and numerous major forestry companies are based in the region. But with global consumption of wood and paper declining and the US recently issuing tariffs against Sweden, the outlook for one of the world's largest wood producers seems bleak. On another note, government funding in Canada is being used to help its remote communities. On Wednesday, the 16th, the premiers of Manitoba and Nunavut announced that they have signed an agreement to work together on developing a proposed hydroelectric and fiber optic project. The project will see a line 1,200 kilometers, about 750 miles long, built through northern Manitoba to several northern Nunavut communities that use diesel to generate electricity and have poor satellite internet connections. While the federal government has already allocated about $1 million to create the plans for the project, the territorial leaders will now ask government for about $1.2 billion more to build this potentially life-changing project for Nunavut. In other news, the biggest prize in Arctic Canada has named its finalist. The 2025 Arctic Inspiration Prize is an annual competition that gives millions of dollars to projects that look to contribute to Canadian Arctic life, and announced its finalist for the over $700,000 prize on Tuesday the 15th. They include the Kayak Community Food Center in Iqaluit, which wants to employ local hunters so the community can have a better supply of locally harvested food, and the Ujiksunik Search and Rescue Readiness Training Program, which wants to train youth across the Canadian Arctic to prevent accidents and emergencies happening in the wild. To see the full list of projects and how they hope to help the Arctic, take a look at the link in the show notes. The Arctic's loudest celebration this week came from northern Norway. On Tuesday the 17th, Bodø Glimt made history by defeating Italian club Lazio in the Europa League quarterfinals. The dramatic match ended in a penalty shootout where Arctic-based Glimt's goalkeeper Nikita Håkan saved 2 penalties to secure victory. Bodø Glimt became the first Norwegian football team to ever reach the semifinals of the European tournament. The team's remarkable journey continues on 1st of May when they'll race English giants Tottenham Hotspur. Finally, the Indigenous Sami communities of Scandinavia are securing their cultural history. On Monday the 14th, Radio Sweden reported that UNESCO has given Memory of the World status to a collection of recordings from the early 1900s of the unique form of Sami music, the joik. The archive was maintained by Lund University in Sweden, containing over 300 sound recordings and more than 500 transcribed joiks, all kept on phonograph and wax cylinders. This edition is the first time an Indigenous people's cultural expression has been designated as a world memory by UNESCO, making a significant step toward the preservation of Sami culture. And that's it for this week. Thank you for joining us. Got any feedback? Send us an email at info@rorschach.com and help us make our updates better. Mana!